Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm back over here at Denny Werner's house. I came over here a couple times last year. He has this really incredible perennial border at his house. Denny has introduced many plants into the trade, including some redbuds that everybody wants, including that golden weeping redbud that I have in the backyard. And everybody's new favorite flamethrower, and some butterfly bushes as well through the Proven Winners brand. I'm lucky I get to come over here and tour this garden occasionally, and I'm actually doing an interview with him next week on his favorite plants. So I'm super interested in what a plant breeder thinks are the plants that he couldn't live without in his garden. But let's get started walking down this border and the various other places in this beautiful landscape in Raleigh, North Carolina, Zone 7B. Last year when I was here, it was definitely in more full bloom than it is right now. For whatever reason, things seem to last year all kind of bloom at the same time, where they're not this year, but it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, this is just an amazing group of perennial plants, a lot of which are native. You'll see that here as we walk down this line. He not only has the flowering perennials to draw in pollinators to the yard, he also has the host plants for the caterpillars. And there's some beautiful bronze fennel as an example of that, which is actually a beautiful garden element. It doesn't, you don't have to hide that anywhere because it's quite striking. There's a ton of coneflowers throughout this border, and there are a few hybrids, but these are just the regular species native coneflowers. There's some Penstemon, which has bloomed out at this point. This is a great perennial for hummingbirds if you're a little further north, but for us down here in the south, by the time the hummingbirds show up, the Penstemon is typically done. Great perennial. You can cut these and get them to come back out a little bit, but for the most part, they're done, which is fine because they're completely surrounded by other things that are about to open up. There's some really beautiful yarrow that kind of comes up above everything else toward the back. That gold pop of color is amazing. Let's see, moving up, there are lots of phlox here, and not many of them are open yet. There's a couple toward the end that we'll see that are open, but you can see where this is layered to have very early flowering things. The Penstemon is an example of that, and then things that will flower late spring, early summer, midsummer, late summer, that kind of thing. Lots and lots of salvias throughout this garden. We'll see several of those in several other places as we move along. This is one of my favorite natives. It's called Rattlesnake Master. I see these all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Just a really super interesting flowering perennial. Hasn't opened up yet, but it forms these beautiful flower heads before they open up. Again, lots of cone flowers along this border, along this edge, and then ones further back in as well. I love the use of alliums. Alliums would have been one of the first things to bloom out here, and then the flower heads continue to look fantastic, just sticking up above everything else in this garden. Again, just tons and tons of garden phlox. This is a native to the southeast as well, and really can kind of be a bully. You can see it pushing. It was probably planted here, and you can see it pushing out into other areas if it's happy in the garden. What's next that's interesting? There's some mountain mint, and I love the way, mountain mint has that silver color on the top when it's in bloom. Sticks up big and tall in the back of a perennial border and has that silver. And nothing, that flower's not that colorful on that mountain mint, but the honeybees and any bees just go absolutely crazy for that thing. I mean, almost wild when they get on it. Let's see what's next. One of my absolute favorite plants. This is Rudbeckia maxima. Those beautiful silver. I can walk up to this one. You have the silver foliage right here. They stick up big and tall, and then the little seed heads that form up above the flowers up there. So unique. But that's Rudbeckia maxima. This is the orange coneflower here. It's quite striking as well. Again, just tons of phlox in this garden that haven't opened. There's an Artemisia, and that silver color just stands out from a mile away. You can see this almost more than you can see a lot of the flowers that are in this garden. Behind that's a beautiful crinum lily that's very well established. He has lots of crinum lilies throughout this garden. Here's a native hibiscus. And these will have the dinner plate size flowers on them in another week or two. They typically like it super hot to bloom. He does have some Japanese beetles out here, and Japanese beetles can be kind of tough on these. So last year when I was here, there were quite a few on it, but the bees love these. I just love them. What's next? This is a world mountain mint. This is a different mountain mint. It also has kind of a silvery color on the top of it. This one hasn't started to open yet. But really, really interesting. Perennial, you can see on the back here, more of those Rudbeckia maxima, just sticking up big and tall above everything else. Few salvia in this spot, and then there's the only spot of garden phlox that I see that's open so far, right here at the end of the border. In the middle of the backyard space, he has this covered patio area that's completely surrounded by flowering pollinator plants or host plants. And a few, of course, he's got to have a few redbuds thrown in. There's a Golden Falls redbud back here. We'll see in just a second. There's some Verbena, bonariensis. This thing can get a little seedy in the landscape, and so it pops up here and there throughout the garden. It was underplanted with some Coreopsis here, and the Coreopsis is done. And what's interesting is if you use that early flowering perennial along the bed edge, you can have other things just come right up in it and cover up, the faded flowers. If we move around this way, there's some Gaura. Gaura's kind of interesting. It moves around in the wind. And also when you get a big bee on them, just weights them down while they're on it, which is kind of super interesting to watch. These can be cut for sure. They can just be cut in half, and they'll come out bigger, better, fuller as they finish their kind of first round of flowering that they've done there. If we're moving around, again, this is that Golden Falls Redbud, same one that I have in my backyard garden space. Again, lots of cone flowers, lots of Rudbeckia, crinum lilies throughout this garden, which are just so fantastic. I planted the first one in my landscape this spring, so I'm ready for that thing to get going. Probably take a couple years really for it to put on a big show like these are. Moving around this way, again, you can see this Verbena bonariensis will find a way to come up in the garden in other places that you didn't put it. And then the bee balm kind of takes over toward the middle and back of this garden space. He's got all kinds of shades of purple and lavender bee balm throughout this garden. And that's probably the thing that is drawing the bees in, has the most attention from the bees this morning. There's a pineapple lily in the middle here. It's been kind of you can see the purple foliage on it. And then again, just there are various cone flowers. When we get around to this spot, we can get a closer up on these, how colorful these bee balm are. Again, this is another southeastern native. And a crinum lily behind it. garden phlox again running throughout this bed, and will kind of take over the flowering duties in the next few weeks. There's some red hot pokers sticking up in the middle of this space. Just a beautiful space. I tell you what, we'll leave this little center bed area, and I'll show you the spot that's probably at this moment putting on the biggest show in this landscape. This is the flamethrower redbud. I put up a video on the channel last year, and this is the one I was showing. This is one of Denny Werner's redbud introductions. Just a beautiful plant. Here we are in the middle of June. You can see 3 or 4 different colors on it. This raised bed here really jumps out ahead of everything else. I think just having that raised soil mass allows these perennials to jump out ahead of everything else, and annuals. There's some coleus here. There's some Kniphofia behind it, an interesting variety of Kniphofia. He has other Kniphofia varieties as well. Fantastic for hummingbirds and bees and everything. Salvia throughout this space. Kind of purple one here, white one up in the middle. This looks like Victoria blue, is what it looks like. There's some Rudbeckia, and then one of the things we'll see as we make our way around the swimming pool area here is lots and lots of zinnias, and he uses this binary mix, which just has giant leaves and giant flowers. Just puts on a spectacular show. They're in oranges and yellows and pinks. Kind of hard to miss with that binary mix. That's the same mix that I used at my house this year because I saw them here last year. There's some zinnias poked in here and there. White one in that spot with a yellow center. There's some petunias stuck in down below on the rocks. They should just come down over these rocks during the summertime. And moving around this way, there's a Gaura that decided to come up in the lawn. It doesn't surprise me that the Verbena bonariensis decided to come outside the wall, but the Gaura was kind of a surprise. Here's some of those Kniphofia in this area. His are quite a bit ahead of mine, and I think it's because it's in that raised bed, but that's how big mine will get during the summertime. Crinum lily that's just starting to bloom. Oh, lots more flower spikes coming on it. Let's see. Here's some cosmos that are just full on bloom. These are definitely ahead of mine, and I'm only a mile from here. But I think this raised bed soil allows things to root in faster and perform quicker. But those are annuals. Rudbeckia, hibiscus, a lot of the repeats of things we've seen. But there is an agastache right behind this hibiscus. Agastache has a bee on it back there that's very, very, very happy this morning. Honestly, if I'm ranking things that that just attract bees in the garden, Agastache is tied with pretty much anything. Maybe that mountain mint over there in this garden, but the Agastache is going to be right behind it. He's got lots of ornamental peppers in here. Of course, this black foliage one wouldn't need a pepper on it to be ornamental. It's just ornamental on its own. And here's one of those big groups of binary zinnias, unfortunately, with lots of Japanese beetles on these this morning. And they've done a little bit of damage to this foliage already, but they're still beautiful, and they haven't really come into full bloom yet. They'll bloom much heavier than this in the next few weeks. Last thing I'll show you on this line is this one just very, very, very large Agastache. Just a great perennial to add to the landscape when the rabbits and deer won't mess with them. there's something that will attract pollinators into a garden, Denny Werner definitely has it in this yard. I didn't even show you his vegetable garden, his blueberries, all of those things draw pollinators into the garden. This is African basil, which I've done at my house the last 2 years as well. They'll fill up this entire space during the summer. Almost nothing better for getting bees into the garden. There's more Kniphofia behind this. There's a euphorbia, a variegated euphorbia back here. You know, even this rosemary, which bloomed back in the late winter, is fantastic on a warm day for pollinators. He uses lots and lots of Gaura, and there's other zinnias up here on this bank as well. But I love coming to this garden during the late spring and early summer, and just seeing, you know, he really changes it up quite a bit year to year as well. So that's been interesting to see in the second season visiting Denny Werner's magical pollinator garden. So thank you guys very much for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification so you're alerted when I upload a video. Thanks for watching.